Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us both online and in our studio. My name is Ola Atamanova, and it's my pleasure to welcome you at Ukraine Media Center. So, our second broadcast today is dedicated to another session of the Parliament of Ukraine amid full-scale invasion, and we will discuss mobilization processes. Joining us in the studio is Fedir Venislavskyi, member of Ukrainian Parliament and Parliamentary Committee on National Security, Defense and Intelligence. Mr. Fedir, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. So, Mr. Fedir, we know that the 13th session has started. It's called customer. First of all, it's number 13, and then we understand all of the challenges on the parliamentary agenda. Probably it's supposed to be a little bit too difficult. So still, what are the key initiatives? What are the resolutions we should expect? Well, this session has already become historic because never the parliament was working 13 sessions. I think we will be working at least 14 sessions because hardly the cadence of our parliament will end with the 13th session. Well, when it comes to legislative initiatives and expected results of parliamentary work, as we were opening the 13th session, I was talking about it from parliamentary tribute along with my colleagues that our priorities are not shifting. First priority is the ensuring of proper operation of the defense sector. We mean those legislative initiatives that are aimed at reinforcement of our defense capabilities and improvement of the procedures for additional leaves. And after opening of the 13th session, we've already had the meeting with the representatives of General Staff of Ukraine and Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, during which we were discussing how can we ensure those opportunities for the servicemen to have more rest and recreation, to impose mandatory leaves, to contemplate additional leaves. This is what we're working on. Also, during the next plenary sessions, we're about to consider the legislation that protects the servicemen who report on any corruption activities during execution of battle tasks or during their service in general. Also, we review the matters of write-off of the property that was destroyed as a result of combat operations. So we communicate with the military in the forward edge in real time. We communicate with private sergeants and their command, and all those legislative initiatives that the military expect from us will be supported by the committee. Yet another area of work of the parliament, whether we want it or not, the war significantly impacts economic aspect of our country, because during the war the investments are not so intense. So another component is maximum attention to economy of our country and businesses, minimization of pressure over business, and the HR policy proclaimed by the president, as well as the projected legislative initiatives, are about to improve the investment climate. And the third area is the social support to our citizens who ended up in difficult conditions as a result of war, compensations for the losses that they suffered to their property, to their health. So any matters related to improvement of social standards is what we expect to see during the work of the 13th session. And obviously during the first day, even despite there was not so much people in the parliament, we voted for the ratification of the agreement between the government of Ukraine and the government of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland to raise £2 billion for our defense needs. The money will be used for the air defense capabilities, but under those agreements we may use those amounts of money for modernization, maintenance, and repair for the existing pieces of material in Ukraine. It's real good because, for what we remember, the law on the state budget of Ukraine channels all of the budget proceeds for the defense sector, and the loans for foreign loans have certain restrictions in terms of their application in defense sector. So again, this agreement is very important. We're currently in negotiations with other governments to raise more funds for the security and defense sector. We've seen the latest resolutions. The martial law was continued. It was no novelty to anyone, but let's talk about mobilization processes. We understand this topic lately, probably not even lately, but within certain later periods has become pretty sensitive in terms of its use by the Russians. They use it a lot in their information warfare. So what are the novelties that we expect in this area? First of all, the motivation package for the contractors below 25 years, and to what extent the mobilization may become younger. Well, let me start from the second question. Well, I've already mentioned that currently, for the time being, there are no legislative initiatives aimed at the reduction of the draft age below 25 years. Everything that is being discussed are exclusively political discussions that I'm convinced, as a People's Deputy of Ukraine, are hardly going to find any support both within our committee and the parliament in general. So it's a political demagogy. When it comes to mobilization, again, those are difficult questions because the long-lasting nature of war. In 19 days, it will be 3 years of the full-scale invasion. People are getting tired, both in the forward edge and in all of their security and defense forces. So again, it influences the mobilization process, but the process continues within the framework identified by the legislation. The process of legislation is smooth, not probably as smooth and as we would like it in terms of the number of people recruited, but generally the process continues pretty well. And in response to a question about the motivation package for the contractors aged 18-25 years, last year a couple of thousand of people aged 18 to 25 has entered into contracts with the armed forces of Ukraine after development of the motivation packages that will contemplate in order to ensure the social fairness and equality in the rights among all of the military. I think those motivation packages should represent some one-off payments, and we hope that it may additionally, if without those initiatives we have thousands of people, probably it will result in significant multiplication of that amount that will reinforce the defense capabilities of Ukraine. On top of that, we have to understand that the mobilization, despite a lot of critics to the conscription offices, is being ensured by their activity and operation. So during the meetings of our Committee on National Security, Defense and Intelligence, we discussed the development of different recruiting mechanisms, and we observe positive dynamics, because previously I was mentioning during your broadcast that about 5% was of the military were recruited, and the rest were drafted. The rest 95 were drafted by the conscription offices. So now the share has changed. The recruiting share has changed, and the dynamics is pretty good. So basically, we are in the process of reformation of ideological component of recruiting, and the rest, when it comes to the reaction of our committee, reaction of the parliament, and the Ministry of Defense and General Staff when the human rights are being violated during the military hospital commissions. There was a task force established by General Brakilevich, and we've come up with a legislative initiative to increase the criminal liability for violation of human rights by the representatives of conscription offices and military hospital commissions if they come up with an unfaithful examination summary. It will result in increase of their criminal liability. It all aims at reduction of violation of human rights. It's not a case that is like really popular, but they exist. So during the operation of our 13th session, we are going to tackle matters like that. So when it comes to motivation packages, according to your expectations, when will our citizens be able to use it, and what do they contemplate? Talking about the content of those packages, well, talking about content, it was the growth of the payments, but as a lawyer, in my opinion, it would violate the principle of equality, because the same people are going to end up in the same trenches, one of them making more, one of them making less. So the most acceptable way will be one of payments during signing of contract that would allow to solve any social problems, to buy something for the family if the military sign the contracts. Well, so this motivation package again will contemplate one-off payments. Yet another question, the extension of term for those with the limited capability, the extension of terms of medical examination. Well, before we've registered relevant legislation to extend this period until the 5th of May, I mean, the medical examination of those with limited capability, we were considering different things, reasons why it has not happened, and it involves a number of reasons. You know, our citizens, we all are used to postpone things until the very last moment, thinking we are going to make it during the last moment, but the objective reasons are because the communication component, the communication framework was not ensured for those who were recognized as a serviceman with limited capability. Should they come themselves, or should they be summoned upon the prescription notice or draft notice? So again, there were long lines in the conscription offices. Now we impose different electronic tools to sign up for those medical examinations, but almost half of those who were recognized as the servicemen with the limited capability, they made it, but in reality smaller number of them did. But from the point of view of failure to comply with the law, again, it contemplates administrative liabilities. So now we've come up with the initiative to extend this period for 3 months in order not to bring people to administrative liability, and to make sure that all of the citizens of Ukraine, those who have no reasons not to undergo that medical examination, so that they do undergo and were eventually recognized as either capable or incapable, like fit or unfit for military service. We are going to consider this matter during our next session. Yet another question: is there a matter, an issue on the agenda to draft the women? Well, before the legislation was approved on the amendment of different laws on Ukraine on military registration, military service, the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine issued a resolution that contemplated that women can be drafted only on voluntary basis. So only their voluntary consent may result in signing of contract. But since it was the subject of political manipulations of representatives of opposition, the parliament, upon initiative of our fraction, decided to put a period in this discussion, and it was resolved that the women undergo basic military training only upon their voluntary consent, and then they are registered with the draft offices only upon their voluntary consent, and they can be mobilized only upon their voluntary consent. So currently there are dozens of thousands of women within our security and defense sector, but again, it's a matter of will. But a lot of women have exercised their rights, and now they're serving in the armed forces, in the ranks of the armed forces of Ukraine. Thank you, dear colleagues. If we have any questions on the floor, please let us know. And now I'm having a question about the draft. We know that the basic military training will be starting this year. So are we really ready for that? Well, the law that rescinded mandatory military service was initiated long ago, and it was enough time to initiate relevant programs within the higher educational institutions to develop that basic military training for the students and for those who don't study in the higher educational institutions. The relevant programs are supposed to be developed, so I think that there will be no problems with imposition of those programs. On top of that, the young people pick time when they can undergo that basic military training. If they don't do it as they reach the age of 25 years, they will be forwarded for such basic military training on forced basis. I think the system should be ready, and it will start working without any unexpected phenomena, unexpected occurrences. So I think that people will be ready to take into account their plans and respectively plan when to undergo this basic military training. Thank you very much for joining our broadcast. Let me remind you, joining us was Fedir Venislavskyi, member of Ukrainian Parliament, a member of Parliamentary Committee on National Security, Defense and Intelligence. Thank you for joining, and I would like to thank our security and defense forces who provide us with the opportunity to hold events like this. Thank you, and glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes.